Semyon Frank. Published January the 28th, 2018. Further information can be found at the end of this recording. Semyon Lyudvigovich Frank, 1877–1950, was a Russian philosopher. Born into a Jewish family, he became a Christian in 1912. Part 1: Early Life and Studies. Semyon Lyudvigovich Frank was born in Russia in 1877, in Moscow, in a Jewish family. His father, a doctor, died when the boy was young, and he was brought up by his maternal grandfather, M. Rosansky, an Orthodox Jew, who taught him Hebrew and took him to the synagogue. Through his stepfather, the populist V.I. Zach, he was introduced to the works of N.K. Mikhailovsky and other revolutionaries. At secondary school he became interested in Marxism. In 1894 he began to study law at Moscow University, but spent more time preaching socialism to the workers. But by 1896 he found Marxist economic theories unsatisfactory, though he remained a socialist. In 1899 he wrote a revolutionary pamphlet which got him expelled from Moscow, so he completed his studies of philosophy and political economy in Berlin. In 1900 he published in Russian a critique of Marx's theory of value. In 1901 he returned to Russia and received his bachelor's degree at the University of Kazan. Thereafter philosophy became his main preoccupation. Part 2: Career as philosopher. In 1901 Peter Bernardovich Struve invited Frank to contribute to his collection, The Problem of Idealism, published in 1902, which criticized materialism and positivism. He spent the next 5 years between Moscow and Germany, writing and translating philosophical works and assisting Struve. Between 1902 and 1905, he contributed to Struve's periodical, Osvobozdenie, Liberation, published in Stuttgart, 1902 to 1904, and Paris, 1904 to 1905. In 1906 he moved to St. Petersburg and contributed philosophical essays to Struve's periodical, Russkaya Mysl. In 1908 he contributed to the influential symposium, Vekhi Signposts. In 1908 he married Tatiana Sergeyevna Bartseva, 1886 to 1984, with whom he would have 4 children: Alexei, 1910 to 1969, Natalia, 1912 to 1999, Vasily, 1920 to 1996, and Victor. In 1912, he converted to Orthodox Christianity and began lecturing on philosophy at St. Petersburg University. Later, he wrote, "I consider my Christianity as the completion of my Old Testament upbringing, as an organic evolution based on the religious foundations which I accepted in my childhood." Frank spent 1913 to 1914 in Germany, where he wrote Der Gegenstand des Wissens, The Object of Knowledge, for which he received his master's degree. 1916. It was followed by his Dusha Klaveka, Man's Soul. 1917. In summer 1917, Frank was appointed Dean of the Arts Faculty of the new University of Saratov. In 1921, he was appointed to the chair of philosophy in Moscow University. There he joined the philosopher Nikolai Berdyaev, who was directing the Free Academy of Spiritual Culture. However, in June 1922, he and other intellectuals were expelled from the Soviet Union on the so-called philosopher's ship. Frank spent the rest of life supported by the World Council of Churches and his friend, the Swiss psychologist and existentialist, Ludwig Binswanger. From 1922 to 1937, he was in Germany, but from 1933, his Jewish ancestry rendered him unemployable in Germany. Fleeing the Nazi persecution of the Jews, he moved to Paris in 1937. During his exile, he published several books and articles in Russian and articles in German, French and Dutch. He and his wife survived World War II by hiding near Grenoble. Their 4 children escaped to Britain. In the early years of the war he wrote God with Us, the first of his works to be translated into English. Published in 1946. In 1945, he and his wife moved to Britain. Frank died of lung cancer in London. He and his wife are buried in Hending Cemetery in London. Part 3. Metaphysical Libertarianism. Semyon Frank's philosophy was based on the ontological theory knowledge. This meaning that knowledge was intuitive in whole but also abstraction in logic. Logic being limited to only part of being. Frank taught that existence was being but also becoming. As becoming, one has dynamic potential. Thus one's future is indeterminate since reality is both rational and irrational. As reality includes the unity of rationality and irrationality, that is, of necessity and freedom. Frank's position being for the existence of free will. Special characters in this article were substituted with audio cues. They were denoted as follows: and, left and right parentheses. This recording is a derivative work from Wikipedia. For more information, to commission recordings like this, and to support the developer, please visit www.patreon.com/frogcast.